your extended forecast.
Well, welcome back. It's now 50 minutes past the top of the hour. Time to take a look at your tropical update, and we take you first into the Atlantic Basin, where we're keeping a close eye here on a tropical wave. We do have one tropical wave that is midway between Africa and the Lesser Antilles, and right now there has been little change in the tropical wave, but still there is some development possible over the next several days. We also see that there was a tropical wave that passed through the Lesser Antilles. It basically has fallen apart, but did bring some scattered showers. And at the very top of your screen here, we have Hurricane Danny. This, of course, being the fourth tropical entity that we've had in the Atlantic this year, with the letter D for Danny. And right now positioned at 465 miles to the south-southeast of St. John's, Newfoundland. Winds right now at 75 miles an hour, so it's a minimal hurricane. Moving quickly to the northeast at 18, and the pressure is estimated at 29.68 inches. Here's the latest look at Danny, and as you can see here, still has somewhat of a center and still plenty of convection associated with it. It's forecast to turn more east in the next 24 hours and then weaken as it works its way into some cooler waters. Mainly, it's just going to affect shipping lanes. As we take you into the Caribbean, most locations are actually looking fairly quiet. Like I said, in the Lesser Antilles, tropical wave has fallen apart, so that's good news here for folks headed southward. In the eastern Pacific, we have Tropical Storm Felicia, currently positioned 1,066 miles west of Acapulco, with winds at 45 miles an hour, moving westward at 18. We may see some minor strengthening from Felicia within the next 48 hours, but otherwise after that, it's expected to weaken and then push its way into some cooler waters. It is not forecast to become a hurricane, so that's good news. And whatever happened to the remnants of Claudette? Well, basically, it got caught up in the big high across areas of the west, and the upper high pushed the remnants westward, did cause some showers and thunderstorms across areas of the southwest where we needed some much needed rain, and that did allow temperatures to return to near or below average, because we have been dealing with intense heat. Friday, we did see highs around 107 in Las Vegas, 104 in Phoenix. And finally, we do have the Western Pacific, where it's very active. We do have a typhoon that could potentially become a super typhoon. We also have a strong tropical storm that is forecast to become a minimal hurricane. Now let's get an update on what's going on in the lower 48 with Bob.
And we have the threat of severe weather in Little Rock, where a severe thunderstorm watch is in effect, extending all the way up to south central Missouri. We'll be watching this as a frontal boundary resides across the south, plus another front could trigger some storms around Minneapolis, and this is through early this evening. But we've seen a brilliant lightning display as of late in northern Arkansas, and we've seen severe weather in Lone Oak County. Watch out around Little Rock. It's looking rough right now, and the drive to Memphis looking rough. Also, some storms along the outer banks of North Carolina. But look at the lightning. These are recent lightning strikes just filled with it, the skies are, from Little Rock all the way up to near Harrison. So it's a dangerous situation this morning. And you can see the storms. Some of them have lessened in intensity, but still quite strong between Little Rock and the Missouri-Arkansas border. So please bear that in mind. You'll probably be hearing that thunder around Lake Conway anytime. To your east generally, as far as you and Russellville are concerned. Here's a check of what's going on in the northeast. Looking pretty quiet right now, but as we head down the coast, there are the storms around Myrtle Beach. Business 15, is it? Looking a little rough right now, but it looks like that'll be clearing later. And as we check out your current scene coast to coast, there's that front in the south helping to trigger the storms, and also the front across the northern plains this evening that could fire some storms. So that's a check of your storm watch.
Well, coming up on Weekend Now, Cheryl Lemke and Bill Keneally will have the latest forecast from coast to coast.
And the day dawns cool and crisp in the Big Apple. We have some news about a weather pattern in the coming week you won't want to miss. Now it's time for your local on the 8s.
If you've been thinking about a trimmer on wheels, just listen to this. The all-new DR Trimmer Mower not only trims with ease, mows tall grass without tangling, and cuts brush and even trees up to 3 inches thick. But now, the new DR converts in seconds to edge along walks and garden borders, to aerate your lawn for greener, thicker growth, and to cultivate your garden. There is no other trimmer of any kind anywhere that can do so much so easily for you and your property. Call 1-800-317-9966 for your free DR Trimmer Mower catalog and video, and to learn about our introductory offer on DR's new powered attachments. There's no obligation, so call now 1-800-317-9966. Online at drtrimmers.com.
DR is professional power for homeowners.
What time is it? Subaru all-wheel drive time. Time to get it all. Up to $2,000 in customer cash rebates depending on model, and financing as low as 0% APR. Time to get incredible savings on an incredible all-wheel drive 2003 Outback, Legacy, or Baja. That's up to $2,000 in customer cash rebates and 0% financing. Hurry to Subaru all-wheel drive time now, because time runs out July 31st.
Subaru, driven by what's inside.
The forecast for your area. Your extended forecast.
Well, it's time now for your tropical update here on the Weather Channel. I'm meteorologist Bob Stokes. Let's take a look at some climatology, then we'll head right into the current tropical conditions. You'll notice during this time period, July the 11th to the 20th, we've had some originations in the western Caribbean, tropical storms and or hurricanes, the western Atlantic, and also beginning to see development this time of the year climatologically. Going back historically, we've had 22 storms since 1886 during this time frame. We've seen some development in the Atlantic, the middle Atlantic, and we have an interesting feature out there right now that I'm going to show you momentarily. Right now, we have no action across the Gulf of Mexico. Now, we've got a trough across the east, but when I show you this entity in the middle Atlantic, I want you to bear in mind that this trough in the eastern U.S. will not be affecting or picking up the system or shunting it away if this system survives, and there's a good chance it will, and I'm talking about this one right here. This is a healthy tropical low and could very well become a tropical depression in just a matter of time, and has its eyes on the island, the Greater and Lesser Antilles. It's moving toward the west at roughly 15-20 miles an hour. And there is some winds on the northeast side of this tropical low of 25-30 miles an hour. So we'll be watching this very carefully. There's nothing, I mentioned the trough in the east because there's nothing to stop it. Sometimes these troughs will shunt it away from the U.S., but right now, this is pretty far south, this track, so we don't think that trough will reach it or influence it. So, boy, if it holds together over the next 2 to 3 days, this tropical low could get going. We'll have to watch that one very carefully. In the meantime, we've got Hurricane Danny. It's in the northern Atlantic. An interesting note, colder air, or colder water, let me say, has not stopped it from strengthening. It did not stop it from reaching hurricane status. That's an interesting note. 75-mile-an-hour winds. It's at its top now. It's not expected to strengthen anymore. In fact, it'll move toward the east-northeast like it is now pretty quickly at 18, then may do a curve and move back toward the southwest in time. That's very possible. That's the 11 a.m. advisory, 440 miles southeast of St. John's, Newfoundland. Here's a look. At one time, the eye was about 15 miles wide, but that eye is filled in, and that does connote weakening. But right now, still a hurricane. You can see the central dense overcast. Not quite as impressive as it was going back several hours. Not as much red or deep orange. So here's a look at Hurricane Danny in the northern Atlantic. It is expected to eventually weaken. Here's a check of the Caribbean. Again, pretty quiet. Nothing going on tropically in the Gulf of Mexico, but we are watching the islands because we think in a matter of days that system to your east, that tropical low, could affect you. Right now, we're relatively quiet vacationers. But there's a look at that tropical low again on the northeast side. Some pretty good winds, 25 to 30 miles an hour. And this is pretty well organized. This is a tropical low. It's more than just a wave. And look at this. Again, at any point in time, this could easily be called a tropical depression. I wouldn't be surprised if it is called as much in a matter of time. The convection or storminess is ebbing and flowing. It looks like a pretty good flare-up going back. Now some of that orange has ebbed a little bit or is weakened, but it's still very healthy and quite organized. Here's another look at it in the visible satellite picture. A good cluster of clouds. Pretty good uniformity there. Not perfect symmetry, but fairly good. Gulf of Mexico, we talked about that. And also tropical storm Felicia. Let's eyeball Felicia. 45-mile-an-hour winds expected to weaken. Stay with us for more.
LL Bean clothing and gear have long been designed to help you cope with most every kind of climate, including the economic climate. This fall, you'll find remarkable values at LL Bean. Every item still made to last with our 100% guarantee of satisfaction. Call today for your free catalog.
It's the biggest Bridgestone sale of the year, right now at Sears Auto Centers. Save 10 to 30% on every Bridgestone, because every Bridgestone is on sale at the lowest prices of the season. Every performance Bridgestone, every passenger Bridgestone. For cars, for light trucks, for vans and SUVs.
Expect a chance of thunderstorms Monday through Wednesday with temperatures in the 80s on Monday. Time for the Tropical Update here at the Weather Channel. I'm Paul Emick. Glad you're here to have this discussion. Let's get to it. A bunch of tropical systems, especially this early in the season. Quite a few right now to discuss. Here we go. Here's Tropical Storm Danny. It was at least briefly Hurricane Danny. Now back down to a tropical storm. We've been talking about its weakening cycle beginning. It is currently some 490 miles southeast of St. John's, Newfoundland. Winds down to 70 miles per hour. It should begin to decrease again over the next few hours, few days. Should be decreasing a bit. Moving east at 17, and the pressure is at 29.71 inches of mercury, 1,006 millibars. In case you're plodding along at home, that's 42.8 north, 44.8 west. Talked about our system here, Tropical Storm Danny, again just a bit earlier today. It was a hurricane, but has now been downgraded. Tropical storm status. You can kind of start to see the beginning of its transitional phase. We've been talking about for a while how it's making more of a easterly trajectory. It is moving somewhat that direction now. You can see from the last image there, kind of making a bit of a move that way. Actually, the next few days is expected to kind of drift on toward the south and east. Not out of the question that it could intensify again. Actually, it could. We're talking about it pushing on into cooler water, so it's not able to tap that rich fuel that it needs to really feed upon and really make itself a big storm. Again, it's moving into colder water, so minus that starts to weaken. But as it slinks southward, maybe even eventually southwestward, not out of the question over the few days, it might intensify again. That's at least a possibility. Official forecast for right now has it kind of weakening and fading away, but there is a possibility it could come back again. And indeed is a possibility. Look there are the Azores. There's our system. That's Tropical Storm Danny right there. We're talking about this one for a couple of days now. Looked like a pretty promising wave that could have the potential to turn into something, and indeed it's already classified. Tropical Depression 6 is currently what we're calling it, Tropical Depression 6. Wind sustained at 35 miles per hour, moving on toward the west at 15. We have several days to keep our eye toward it. It's 1,045 miles east of the Lesser Antilles at 12.4 north, 44.2 west, 29.80 inches of mercury, 1,009 millibars. This one, as far as like parameters go for rapid intensification, this one meets just about all of them. The shear or the rip aloft is very, very low aloft. We talk about how we need to have a number of things together for a tropical system to really crank it up. You have to have water up around 80 degrees, not an absolute. It can be a bit cooler, but around 80. Need to have proper conditions aloft. This one hasn't, really not a lot of shear or resistance aloft, and you have to have that pre-existing spin. We've watched the spin for several days. It's now classified, and looks like now the parameters are it could intensify rapidly, so not out of the question that we could be looking at a tropical storm in the next 12 to 24 hours. Again, looks like it is intensifying in a fairly rapid manner. Again, for perspective, there's the coast of South America. Here's our new tropical depression. Again, it could reach tropical storm strength easily within a day because most of the parameters are there for a system that could intensify in a hurry. Looking on across the Antilles, very quiet, beautiful to Barbados tonight. Nice for the Virgin Islands into Puerto Rico, Old San Juan, good spot tonight. Bahamas fairly quiet as well. Little wet weather in some spots here across the Bahamas, but really fine for most islands. Western Caribbean, no areas of great concern now, and across the Gulf of Mexico as well, no concern from development. In the Eastern Pacific, we have Tropical Storm Felicia, 1,225 miles west of Acapulco. Wind sustained at 40, moving on toward the west at 15. The good news with this one, it is moving away from land, pushing away from land, and should begin weakening here over the next few days, and no longer much of a concern. Central Pacific, very, very quiet. But in the Eastern Pacific, we have one tropical storm heading in toward Vietnam. Then we also have one typhoon heading toward the northern Philippines. More details on all the active weather next.
Yeah, I take pride in my yard. It's a lot of work, but it's worth it. We enjoy the fresh air, the sunshine. Of course, mosquitoes are a problem, but we manage.
Get the most out of your yard with Mosquito Magnet. This patented process silently and continuously kills mosquitoes and other biting insects. Protect your backyard with Mosquito Magnet. It's up to 50 times more effective than other traps.
Mosquito Magnet, fatal attraction.
No matter what you enjoy doing outside, you'll enjoy it more with Mosquito Magnet.
Enter the backyard sweepstakes at weather.com/mosquito.
There's still time to save on Futura touring tires.
Hurry in for low prices on Futura tires for cars like Camry, Taurus, Intrepid, and most minivans.
Futura, some of the best tires made. They just cost less. Pep Boys, we're car people.
Call 1-800-PEP-BOYS or go to pepboys.com to find the store nearest you.
From the dawn of time, there have been traditions. And mankind has always known it's just not a mix without the Chex. Chex Mix traditional flavor. Get into the mix.